All right, we're going to try this one more time. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Imuna. We're trying it. Take number 2. For those who just joined us, welcome, like, subscribe, share, and put your thoughts below in the comment section. Today, we are going to have a special guest. And if you're out there and you want to be a special guest, just holler at the kid and we can have that conversation. I love having respectful dialogue. Today, we're going to ask the question, are we in a modern day gender war? Are we in a modern day gender war? Let me see if my guest is here. Allow viewers to send you a request. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, so we're just trying to see if the sister could come on. I don't see her yet. But yeah, basically that's the question. Based on just a lot of things that I'm observing and the energy, you know, when you and somebody in the war and you and somebody fighting, there's a lot of angry energy there. I'll see if I need to accept from the phone. Yeah, maybe. There's a lot of angry energy that one would say, well, are we fighting? Are we at war? And that's what I see between the genders. This energy as if the person is your adversary. What are your thoughts? Do you think that we are in a modern day gender war? And if so, why? What started the war? If somebody's in war over land, somebody's in war over ideals and ideologies, we see this all throughout history. What would be the reason? And put it in a box for me that if we are in a modern day gender war, what is the reason? What is the reason? Now, what happens is because the energy between the male and female at this time is very high intensity, it's like the perfect conditions for things to go ablaze. Welcome to the discussion. It's like in California, because it doesn't rain, right? It's the perfect conditions for forest fires, right? So there's something conditionally in the air, in the atmosphere, and in the hearts and minds of both parties that the moment you accidentally bump into somebody, it's like whoo, this whole flare up. Is it dissatisfaction? Is it religion? Is it misunderstandings? Is it broken communication? What is it? What is it? There are many people right now in the virtual space that are exploiting this perfect conditions for these gender wars, right? Is it a power grab? Is it a power struggle? There's some who would say, what's happening is he started it, you started it. When you were little or you have children and they're arguing, you're under the live. Let me go ahead and try to invite Sister Mayana on again. Hold on one second. If you go out and come back in, sis, if it doesn't work, then just go out and come back in. Nope. For some reason, I don't see you. For some reason, I don't see, when you came in, it's supposed to say bring them on camera. It's supposed to say under your name. I'm not seeing it under your name. I'm not sure why. I log out, exit out, and then come back on your phone again, and then say something in the chat so that I could see you to bring you on camera. We could try that. Yes, so basically what I'm saying is, oftentimes what starts a war, right? Just in very simplistic terms, right? What starts a war? Somebody encroaching in someone else's space, basically, right? Somebody doing something in some way to encroach upon someone else's physical space, someone else's emotional space, someone else's mental space. Let me know what are some of the other things that starts wars, so we can understand, are we in it, to see whether or not we are in. If you haven't I like to reverse engineer or deconstruct the thing so I can understand the principle of a thing. So when we put it back together, we could really understand what's going on here. It's just a weird thing with me. But so if we think about the very principle of war and what it is, then we can begin to understand it's this power grab, this power struggle between one party and the next. We can be at war with ourselves, right? So we can have, as I tell the children, the bad mind and the good mind. And then there's this tug of war inside of us. Says, I don't know why I'm not seeing. Invite me now. Yeah, I invited again, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. Oh, wait. Now I can see you. All right, boom. Now we have our guest in the house, adding Sister Mayana, so we could continue to have this conversation. So yeah, if you're warring within yourself or you're warring with somebody else, understand that there's this power struggle that happens. There we go. Greetings and welcome, Sister Mayana. Welcome to the discussion. You made it.
I did, but it's weird because it will let me do it from the phone, but not from the computer.
Yeah, no, I think the phone is what you can go live with. I'm not sure you could do it on the computer. But yeah, I ended up titling it, Are We in a Gender Struggle? Greetings and welcome. Share your thoughts. Say hi to the people.
Shalom, everybody. Shalom, shalom. I would have to agree that we have been kind of pulled into a gender war because there's so much invested on both sides of establishing some kind of foothold or establishing an identity and having value, having that identity value. And so it becomes a war, it becomes a civil war. And instead of it being that we are against outside forces, we have turned that battle inward.
Okay, I like that because, like you said, there's civil wars, the domestic, and then there's those that are abroad, right? And so we are in this space, and like you said, in your estimation, the struggle for, is it a struggle for power? Is it a struggle for autonomy? Is it a struggle for the ability to identify one's own self and one's own needs? Coming from the female perspective, and brothers, if you on here, share your thoughts. If we are in a war, let's say we are, right? What is it? What is the struggle about?
Well, from what I have observed, Shalom Deborah, what I have observed is that there is a struggle for this ever elusive idea of respect. What you hear the men saying is that the women don't respect us. What you hear the women saying is that the men don't respect us. So there is this idea of respect that's up for grabs. And what respect looks like and what the criteria are to obtain respect seem to be what the battleground is.
You know, it's funny you bring up respect. Years ago, I did I did a study on that word. I think we might want to go back and look at it. Because it has the prefix of re, right? And spectier, that means to look. So to look again, right? So we have to consider when we say respect, what does that look like? Because if in the mind of one person you are not here with me, or you're not in front of me, you're behind me, then the question is, who extends respect to whom? Is it mutual according to the word, or does one party first extend the respect and then it is returned? This is the question. Who first has to show respect? Without even just this. Go ahead.
But even in what you're explaining now to the people about the construct of respect, the word itself, is that there has a built-in idea of reciprocity. It's not something that comes out of nowhere and is replied out of. It's something that is in reply to. It's in reply to something is shown, and then there is a reaction to this initial showing of something, which is why you hear people saying that in order for you to gain respect, you have to give me something to respect. What am I seeing that I'm replying to with this
regard?
Regard that you are expecting from me. What have you given me? Which is why there's a difference between people say, you don't have to respect somebody, but you should show them certain courtesies, and that deals with integrity. That's why there's a difference between acknowledging the integrity. No, there's not. It's not the word integrity, is it? Is it integrity? Okay, now it's another. I think it is integrity. The difference between the integrity of a person and giving them respect.
Uzziah says, "Make love, not war." Yeah, brother, we here trying to figure out what's the war about, man. It's getting hot. It's getting hot in here. You understand? So yeah, if we define words, and sometimes we get bogged down because people say that you and your feelings until you bring the facts, and then all of a sudden everybody disappears, right? So we get sometimes bogged down. But what I did find in many years of doing these type of conversations is that in the beginning, it's very important to define words, because we all, to a certain degree, have a different definition of what we think the word means. and what it looks like. So I would say respect means, or looks like to me, right, saying good morning or saying excuse me, right? And then for someone else, based on their upbringing and the way in which they were nurtured and brought up, respect looks like don't eat the last piece of chicken out the fridge. You know what I mean? So
Right.
is there a across the board respect? Is there a different way respect looks amongst women and a different way it looks amongst men? Because I don't think to a certain degree we're speaking the same language, because I've heard it said the woman needs to respect the man, but the woman doesn't need respect. She needs love.
Yeah, who was that? That was the
I've
other
heard
girl.
that somewhere.
It was
I've heard that.
I think it was Rokisha. So we have the battles of the Rokisha and the Roshans now that we're looking at. But just quickly to backtrack, the word I was looking for is dignity. The difference
Okay.
between having respect for someone and acknowledging the dignity of that person, and not integrity, but the word was dignity. But no, absolutely, is that and even in talking about, or when you hear the man sometimes discussing when they say respect, they want to be respected for the state of being a man, not because they have done anything performatively masculine or done anything, but just the very mere fact of their manhood should be respected. It's just the existence of being a man. And they're like, you don't respect men, right? And not necessarily what men are doing or contributing, just the fact that there are men need to be respected. And that is what we're having a conversation
Is
about.
that an errant thought though? Is that a right and exact thought, or is that something that because again, like you said, this is one of the spaces and points of contention. Is that something that's errant, or is that something that is like, if a lion comes into your presence, it doesn't matter what the lion does, as long as it's a lion, you get to stand at attention because you respect the power that's in that lion and its capability to do harm to you? Is that where we're going? Just by the mere presence of the person, you should extend some across the board formal respect.
I think that's where the two terms came into play. Why I was bringing that to the attention is that the idea of dignity is when you acknowledge things that are inherent in the person. That's dignity. That's acknowledging the dignity of someone. But respect is something that's performative. Respect, like you said, is in response to something.
Right, it
That is
is.
a reaction to something. It is not an anticipation of something. It's not a pre-acknowledgement. A pre-acknowledgement is when you give something dignity. When you don't decide that lion ain't gonna do nothing to me, that's
Right.
different, right? But to acknowledging that you are in that lion's house and that lion could pretty much do whatever. That's affording dignity to that lion. This is in terms of and so for those who think, oh, I'm just splicing words, words have meaning. They carry vibration and energy for a reason. There are different terms for different things for a reason. So any cursory study on dignity versus respect, you will find that those are the distinctions. The dignity is just allowing for that which is innate
Can I
in
hear
the
you?
in the person. You cannot hear me? I lost volume?
Your sound went out, sis. Can you hear
Really?
me?
I can hear you. Yes. Can you
I
hear me? But you can't
I
hear me.
can't hear.
That is madness. The haters.
Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chat whether or not you guys can hear me. My phone rang. I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. Let me do that right now. Do not disturb the kid when the kid is on live. Hold on.
The
I'll
sister
be forgetting to
Angelina
put.
says
I
there's a
can't
difference
hear you,
between
sis.
fear and
What happened? I'm
respect.
gonna click out and then you come back in. Um, and that's also the word that Angel brought up. Can you guys hear me? You can hear
I can hear
both.
you.
Now I can't hear Mayana. Mayana, I'm gonna click you out and then you come back in. My apologies for that. The phone rang and then I couldn't hear anymore. But Sister Angel brought up fear, which is a level of reverence, not like, oh, I'm so scared, but reverencing something for what it is. Also lending to what Sister Mayan is talking about. So you reverence the lion to a certain degree because you know the power that the lion holds. In the same way, when hurricane is coming to these parts in Florida, people understand the power of a hurricane. And so that, for the most part, you don't just be out there willy-nilly like, oh, I'm going to go surfing. You reverence the power of a hurricane. You know what it can do. And so, you take precautions. So that's the question that we're asking today. Are we in a gender war? We're just scratching around, blowing around some dust, not really going too deep. Mayana, put your thing back in here so I can bring you back in, just to see whether or not, if we are, where is it coming from? And does the male need to give something before he can expect something? Does the female need to give something first before she can expect something? Like, is that where it is? Or is it in the power grab? Is it in the equaling of the playing field? I'm going to do a video on a article and another video on something that I saw, a podcast, because I just thought it was fascinating when talking about why men no longer, a lot, out in the world, no longer see it feasible to marry. And the points that were being made, I'm like, wait, hold on. That to a certain degree, there needs to be, or the thought is that if she can have access to resources herself, then there's no need for me. I've heard men say that. And I'm like, that's very fascinating. I had that thought when you look at the biblical, for some people who may be like, oh, she always talking about the Bible. Look, it's in there. When you look at what his position was, the male, right? He had to go get the resources and build, and then she was charged with building up the internal, right? So when someone's function is connected to a certain thing and someone else comes in that space, oftentimes it may feel as though, hey, you're stepping on my toes. But one of the issues that we see throughout the annals of time is that, I don't see you again. Hold on, sis. Oh, there we go. One of the issues that we see throughout the annals of time is that the men's access to resources was used as a weapon against, and still today in many parts of the world, because she does not have the direct connect. It's like going through the middleman, so to say. If the middleman wants to hike up your price and that's the only way you can get the goods and services, you're going to have to comply. If the middleman says, I'm going to charge you 20% interest, and you don't have any way to get it to yourself, then you have to comply. So there's a little of leverage that middleman, in this case, we will say the man, had to the direct resources. And once the woman no longer says, hey, I'm not going through the middleman anymore, I'm going to the source, I don't want to play. This is not, I'm only saying that. This is what I've heard. Like, forget it, I don't want to play anymore. It's over. Because why? I can't use the fact that I have this to make you submit. I actually heard somebody say, what else are you going to use? What else do you have to now make this person submit to you? That's deep. That's deep. Sister Myron, what's your thoughts?
Well, in addition, because I can't even argue with that. So in addition to the advantages of being able to exploit power and exploit the absence of power, there's also the idea here that this is necessary to diminish one party in order to have a relationship with them. And I think that that's interesting. That in order to feel like you can be in a relationship with a woman, she must be diminished in your ideas about who she is, how she functions, and to what extent she's allowed to contribute to the relationship. So, like you said before, this idea of I don't want to play if all things are even.
Throw my toys on the board.
We're not going to use the word equal, but we're going to I think it's important to look at what happens when things are even. If I don't have an advantage, if I can't take from you so that I have all of these privileges stacked in my favor, and you have every opportunity to be fully human in this relationship, then now I don't feel like I can function.
And for those who just joined us, we're not making this up, so stay tuned. This is what is being said. So let us know if you agree or if you disagree respectfully. But yeah, Sister Man, I agree with you. What's going on here, and is this contributing to what we are translating as a gender war? It's right. Where we can see it when you take gender away and you look at the system and the construct in which America was built. There had to be a permanent underclass in order for one person to feel elevated. And we can look at that squarely in the eye and say that is unjust. Even though who one deemed as the underclass was fully capable, they had the skill sets, they had the intelligence. One had to dehumanize them in such a way, because make no mistakes about it, in order for us to feel superior to someone or something, we have to dehumanize them. We have to lower them. You know, you're not fully human. You really don't need sleep. You don't really feel that much pain. You know, all the things that were said and throughout slavery was necessary to be able to abuse and misuse the person and the people group.
Right.
So to a certain degree, we're seeing that we can say, yo, that's messed up, that's not right. But when we bring it over here, because we may be the ones who are now guilty, the guilty party, it's like, wait, no, slow down, no, wait, we're going too fast. Why does she have to be lowered in your esteem for her to have value in this relationship? Or in this part, we're talking about intimate partner relationship. But go ahead, Sister Mayana.
And in previous conversations, we were looking at this idea about how men react and respond to submission when they receive it. We talked about, for example, okay, so maybe I'll share the story again, and we'll go the same path that we did in the green room. So I was sharing that a good male friend of mine and we were discussing challenges in developing relationships, and I shared with him that for all of the agency and all the things that I do outside of relationships, in a relationship I tend to be different. In the relationship, I don't need to be the only voice in the room. I prefer for the male to have certain and exhibit leadership. I have no problem stepping back and doing it and letting him lead and letting him do whatever. And so,
Sister Mayana, I'm sorry to cut you, but do you mean submit? That's the word you're looking for?
no, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. In the relationship, submission is
Mm-hmm.
not, in terms of submission, like, I will just do it.
Okay,
I
we
don't
just
have
wanted to
any
hear
problem.
you say it, sister. We
Oh
wanted to
yeah,
hear you say it.
I will submit in the relationship, right? I will say, okay, I literally, I'm not even gonna say technically, I will literally submit to the expectations of the male having a dominant role in the relationship. I don't have a problem with that. I was raised very old school. I'm cool. But so what my male friend told me was, you, what was wrong with the conversation, and maybe some of the people in the audience heard it, is I was saying that I was letting him do these things. And he's like, man, the problem is the men that you're with know that you're letting them do it. It's not that they have established any kind of dominance over you, but you have conceded. You've let them do it, which means that at any point in time, you can decide not to let them do it anymore. And so that's the constant problem, is that there's always this known that it's not something that they authentically have over you. And what you hear a lot of the times, and we were talking about it before, is that in Genesis 2 idea of the man will rule over you, as if that's a given. And not the portion before. And first of all, we already know that the word there is not over, it's in, but the portion before that says her desire will be to him. So it's something that she has to choose to happen. There's nothing natural in terms of domination that the male possesses. This is something that the woman makes a conscious decision to engage in. The woman feels like she's safe enough to allow for someone else to take the lead in certain spaces. So this idea that the man is innately dominant, there is an error in that thinking, that there needs to be understood that there is a degree of concession that happens here when the woman diminishes herself in that relationship. And the man has to be okay with it. If he's not, then you have that kind of dissonance to it.
So that may be the contribution to the gender war. We have a question here that says, from BA, the man ruling is a curse. Would you agree? I mean, the way in which the text reads, if we're going from the biblical, that conversation comes after the transgression, right? And it comes in line with all of the other things that was meted out to the man and the woman. But some would say it depends, right? Some
Yeah,
would
I would
say it
say it
depends.
depends
What's
also.
your thoughts, Sister Maya?
Yeah, I would say it depends also, because the man ruling, I don't think that the biblical sense, because we already talked about the difference between mashal and radah. that the rule that is discussed in Genesis 3, there's no judgment. Actually, when you talk about the woman, when you read the text, this portion where the father is talking to his daughter, the word judgment or the word curse, literally the word curse, is not there. It's only when he talks to the serpent do you see the word curse, and when he speaks to the man do you see the
He
word
says,
curse.
"Curse be the
But
ground." Yeah.
curse to the ground, right? But literally, there's no curse language at all in Genesis 3:16. He doesn't say that this is part of a curse or you're being cursed because there's no word curse at all associated with the woman, which is why it's always so interesting that we think about Genesis 3:16 as this was the curse of the woman. There's no curse for the woman. The serpent has a curse, and the ground on behalf of the male has a curse, but there is no curse for the woman. But to answer VA, what I would say is the way men think about curse now, think about rulership now, that's part of the curses. The
Okay.
way that they have thought
So,
about this word now. Go ahead, sis.
sorry, no, y'all, it's a little light out here, and the words on the screen is white. So if you see me squinting and really can't see, I'm not trying to not see what you're saying, but I can't see what you're saying. You understand?
Well,
So,
VA is saying that in Genesis 3, at the beginning, in Genesis 3, there's no co-dominion. In Genesis 1, there is co-dominion, but in Genesis 3, my disagreement was there is no word curse in Genesis 3:16 for the woman, which has already been confirmed by somebody else watching the live. Instead, there is a discussion between father and son about father and daughter about what her desire will be and the fact that the man will rule in her, not over her, but in her. And just looking at this verse in the Hebrew will confirm that. And so that's why, and also the word rule, we see that in Genesis 1, the word rule, and Moon and I have already done a live about this. In Genesis 1, two types of rule is established, mashal and radah. One is a passive rule, meaning it's a hands-off rule, and one is an active hands-on rule, and that's radah. And so in the text, you see that there's a hands-off kind of rulership being discussed in Genesis
hold on one
3:16, but we
second.
don't want to go too far off of the
Yeah,
topic.
yeah, yeah. We want to and thank everybody for joining us. We're having a discussion about whether or not we have a modern day gender war, and just kind of looking at it, an overview of where it could be coming from, why we're experiencing what we're experiencing, because it's real and present, and just looking at people who are exploiting this, right? And they're over there with their two sticks, like perfect conditions, you know what I mean, and start rubbing it together, and poof, everything goes up in smoke. Well, anytime you have a war, and Brother Uzziah, he said thirsty for power. Anytime you have a war, there's going to be casualties, right? There's going to be some fallout. There's going to be some repercussions. Both parties are not just going to walk away without any scars or any stories to tell. And from what I'm seeing a lot of people saying, inside the community, outside the community, is that there, especially the males, there's no longer any reason to marry. Yeah. So that means that there has been now a disconnect from even looking to preserve seed. When you look at historically, you will see the thought process of preserving seed at the forefront of people's minds. Like, I want to preserve, I want to build my house, I want to leave my legacy. People right now would rather have a dog baby and a cat baby than a child.
Right.
There's something happening. There's a disconnect there where building up one's home is no longer at the forefront. Humanity to a certain degree is coming to like this standstill. What is that? How did that happen, and how did we get here? The thought is, like, right now we got the news today or yesterday, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates is divorcing. And many people can think about, and this is one of the points of contention that I hear men bringing up, why divorce? Because the moment you divorce her, she gets half of everything.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So the thought process is, and so there's a war in there. So she's no longer flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones. If she leaves for whatever reason, she's going to take my resources with her.
Right.
When we talk about in other spaces, people like to say, look at other countries. Yes, we do. When you look at other countries, if she comes with nothing and the man only solely has the power to drive her out and does so, and she leaves empty-handed,
Mm-hmm.
Who cries out for injustice? The only person who cries out for injustice is the person who it's being done to. Yeah? But in today's space and time where it says, okay, you can't just drive her out with anything because rightfully she came into your home and she helped build it up. And the thought process is now it's unjust because now she's still taking something from me, although she may not have the power to take it all. It's again, not respecting one another in the way in which we would want others to respect. When one has the power to just drive you out and you just have your two little bags, they act a bit differently. You know what I mean? They act real different. But when you say, hey, you know, I can hold you accountable for that. Nope, it's not fair. I throw down my blocks and my Legos. I'm out. What's this? What, like the baby, what's this? Let's see what's going on in the count. We can't stay all the way long because we got some running to do, and Sister Myrna have to go to work. But
I think, Deborah, what we'll do is we'll revisit these Genesis concepts of Zakar and Akava. We'll revisit those Radah and Mashal terms. We can even link you to the videos that we've done on it already. But because we don't have a lot of time for this topic, we want to kind of stick to. As a matter of fact, Deborah gave a great kind of feedback when we were talking about this military approach to this conversation, especially some of the terms like body count come up. I remember saying to you that checking one another's body count sounds like a death thing. That's what how many dead bodies you have when you're talking about these concepts of what makes you marriageable, your body count, right? So Deborah, I don't know if we're able to pull up how she thought about that. She had a similar thought about what that term sounds like, that it sounds less like a marriage concept and more like a military one.
Yeah, it's war.
Right? So that kind of goes to this idea of the Civil War. Maybe I'll pull it up. Maybe I can go to your page and pull up.
While you're pulling that up, I'll read Uzziah. I think I could see it a little bit. He's talking about power. He says power is an issue only when the perceived dominant party is insecure and thirsty for recognition. I thought that was funny, brother. You know, y'all know y'all can't be giving me all these descriptive terms. Some see it as an inflated ego, but at its core, it is displays an ego deficiency. Wait. Sorry. The ego is our own idea of our self-importance. To have a desire to wrestle for power in a relationship means the person, man or woman, doesn't feel important. It displays a lack of self-esteem. Boy, y'all we're gonna have to come back and have, you know, I mean,
have an economic issue over here.
This is why, you know, for years, why you're looking for that, Sister Myrna. You know what I see in all of what I'm seeing?
I'm sorry.
You got it?
No, I'm on your page now. Under which one of your posts is this?
It's the body count. I don't even want to go there, but it's the it's if the man who has over 100 body count. Is it normal for a man to have a body count of over 100? I think that's the one. And hey, guys, those were some interesting answers. Okay, those were some interesting answers.
I mean, it's not normal, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, I got questions. But yeah, as it relates to the war and the body count, you found it?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
Deborah shared body count. Sounds more like a military term during wartime. Died in action, missing in action, while serving the country. They died in the process. Do the memories of women get killed by stacking, archiving those nameless and faceless women in a spam file, after which they get permanently deleted in due time, while what is left is a body count? No?
Something to think about.
I think that's beautifully written. Like this,
yeah, it's
poetic even. Like that's I think it asks really important questions. Like, what happens to these women? Do they get filed away? Are they archived? Do they become nameless, faceless memories? Because we now just call them the body count. Or even with these women who are engaging in casual interactions with these men. Casual. We go back to the things that we don't consider casual. But are women doing the same thing? Are they filing this away and saying, you know, I mean, And to be frank, and we'll have a moment of frankness, women will decide that based on your performance, it doesn't even count. Like
You know,
that would
that was the video. I don't know if you guys saw the video. I have to go over to YouTube. I've been doing this noteworthy section. And so that's what the women were saying. The guy who was asking, he was like, is it 5 and a possible? Because y'all know y'all don't count it if it wasn't worth it. I was like, you know what? Did he say he was playing spades? 5 and a possible?
5 and a possible, yeah.
So it's as you're saying, this thought of casual sex, we have to come back and talk about that one, because I got some thoughts, right? But this body count conversation and lending language or borrowing language from war, right? Seeing the person as prey, somebody who you need to capitalize on, somebody who you need to run game on, somebody who you need to take tally on, how many battles you run. You know what I'm saying? All of this shows that you are not in league with this person, but you are playing a game against this person. Yeah? Of this people group. How can you skill the women, and the women, how can you finesse the man to get it in what you want? And then we wonder why we have reached to where we have reached to. Casualties of war.
Casualties of war.
Loss of marriage.
Casualties of the gender war.
Of the gender war. Loss of connection. Loss of love.
Bad attachments. We have failed
right, and poor attachment. For you too, and we'll wind down, but for anyone, man or woman, because for some reason we limit the anatomy of the person we limit their spirituality to their anatomy. So if physically the woman is more invaded, like how you invade a place, right? She's invaded by this masculine energy. She is more, what's the word I'm looking for? She's more conquered, the thought is, than the person doing the invading.
And compromised. And compromised.
And compromised, correct. So the thought is, because the male is the one who's invading, he doesn't have as much fallout as she does on a physical level. What about on a spiritual level? There's many places that America has sent its army to invade over the years. You're going to tell me that the veterans who came back, because they were the ones who were invading, doesn't have PTSD? You're going to tell me that they don't have effects from doing the things that they did and seeing the things that they did?
Yeah. Battle fatigue, becoming. Also, when you take an object and you continuously force it to enter into something, it becomes a blunt object. It doesn't stay sharp. It doesn't stay in its original peak condition. When you continuously use or misuse something, it loses shape, it loses form, it loses function.
That's not what I heard, sister.
Of course, but you know, again, when we look at the language, you and I were looking at the language of what do you call a man who is overusing his tool, and it was interesting to see that they called the woman the.
Yeah. Okay, sis, we're gonna go there, Sister Brianna. Wait, hold on. Let's lay it out.
I got time for this. I got time for
Wait, we got a little bit of time. But I was thinking, right, as I was minding my business, I was saying to Sister Brianna in the green room, like, I got questions. So I asked the question, what would you call the man who had 100 bodies? Would you call him a hoe or a homemonger? And the brother, I believe his name was Alan, shout out to you. He said, no. You know, you would call him promiscuous. And I'm like, isn't that nice? That just sounds like, you know, something you sprinkle on, you know what I mean? Promiscuous. I'm like, wait a minute.
It sounds dainty.
It sounds very, very non-threatening. You know what I mean? Very fine. So I was like, no, wait. Yeah. If the garden tool, right, is a hoe that you use to dig up the ground, and the man in this interaction is the one that has the tool that he used to cultivate her ground. How did she become
the ground?
Penetrate and cultivate. How did she become the hoe? Anybody who's out there in virtual land, please answer me that question, the $1 million question. How does the one who doesn't have the tool be called the tool, and the one who does have the tool not have the name of the hoe? So in rightness, he would have to be the hoe, because if we're going to compare the two, the hoe digs the ground, and well, you know where I'm going with this. Y'all help me out. How did she become the hoe? I need like the history of how she became a hoe.
But you know what? I think that we asked and answered that question in the green room by saying that she gets that name through his deflection. Him saying, although I'm the one guilty of this activity, I need to put this I need to put this label on you. And there's
Hmm.
a lot of that shifting the blame. A lot of
Uh-oh.
that saying, I'm going to engage in a lot of really dangerous
Risque.
activities and risque activities, but I'm going to hold you accountable for all of them. I'm going to say, yes, I did this, but you somehow are accountable for it. And I like to see you take accountability for my actions in all of these spaces. And it seems like that has been the selling point in some of these conversations. When I see certain ideas being celebrated, on both men and women have said, I really like seeing the woman being held accountable.
Right.
And I wonder if we really like seeing the woman being held accountable because accountability belongs to her in every instance, or because we're just more comfortable with the woman being vulnerable than we are to holding men accountable and then having to see them go through stages of vulnerability where they are now being uh, they're now being held to the consequences of that accountability. We talked in the green
Right.
room a little bit about certain scarlet letters that women have been kind of pushed out of their designated role of the over and opposite, over and opposing position, because she is careful not to obtain the label of emasculator, the E word. You are emasculating him when you hold him accountable. When you say that there are certain dignities that should be afforded to you, you gain another letter. You're now the F word. You're the feminist.
Oh.
So
Oh. Wait,
you're not the F word.
Sister
So the E
Angel.
word and the F
Go
word,
ahead,
right?
sis.
The E word and the F word are now these two really the two new scarlet letters. These are the new scarlet letters on top of the old scarlet letters that we are also ever wary of.
And speaking of scarlet labeling, Sister Angel just said something I think is noteworthy, that promiscuous is an adjective. It describes your action. But hoe is the label that you're putting on the person. So oftentimes the feminine principle gets the label. She gets
Mm.
scarred with this label, this scarlet letter. But we're just going to describe your actions. Like, this is who you are, but this is just what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's super deep. That's a
Right.
well,
This
making
yeah.
this who you are versus something you've done. That's the whole Christian concept of hate the sin but love the sinner, right? So
Right. I get to be the male oftentimes. This is just what I did. You
you
know,
can just separate yourself,
right.
but who
From
you
from
are
it. You
from
get to
your
distance
behavior.
yourself.
Right.
So there's a
Right, but the
level
behavior
of
is the woman. Got it.
double standard that oftentimes people say, but when we're looking at war and when we're looking at trying to find out how did it begin, where is it taking us, and how can we work on things, we have to be honest about some of the ways in which, like you said, the people who we lean towards and why we think it's the woman you gave me. It's easier to say it's the woman you gave me. I was going to post something earlier, you know what I'm saying? The first thought is the woman's fault. The last resort is the woman's fault. And everything in between is the woman's fault. Right? And as long as we can blame it on the woman in society, then even women, if we and this is how we internalize a lot of stuff and take on responsibilities that's not necessarily ours to carry.
Right.
You understand? And I'll leave it here because I saw a post come up from a few years ago whose responsibility it is for all of the single mothers. We have somebody out in the community saying today, it's the woman's fault. If you're a single mother, it's your fault because once conception is passed, everything else is on you. You could have made all of these choices, but they're not telling you those choices look like killing a child. Those choices look like giving the child away. All of those choices are not necessarily the best choice to make.
Right.
But one is actually saying, you had the choice because I was having casual sex. We're going to come back and talk about that casual sex because I got questions too on that one. Anything else you want to say, Sister Mayana? Let me see here. I'm sorry if I didn't read everything. Anybody else have any good questions? Put it there and continue the discussion in the box below. That was just
A quick tap. But you know what? I also want to say this: when we're talking about sex and its consequences and where we're laying accountability, very often we look at the woman, and very often we look at the man. But we forget that sex, the outcome of sex, is supposed to be the children, and we forget that there are children who are watching. There are children who uh, are actually carrying the brunt of the decisions that are being made by adults, and we forget in this blame game
right.
who's really carrying the consequences and what it means for how they grow up and become adults, which I think is why it was important for you to look at a certain speaker and see what his genesis were before
Right.
he became that speaker, what was influencing him. And it's something that we're not paying attention to. We're looking at all of these products and not looking at their beginnings. And so these decisions that we're making as adults, with these sexual choices that we make, with these relationship choices that we make, that end in having children, we forget that those children are still there. And they're watching, and they're learning, and they're absorbing, and they are responding, and replicating and
Yeah.
reproducing.
And I mean, some of the stuff that I've been seeing lately, I'm like, what in the world? I think BA said he wanted to come in. I'm not sure if this lets you do more than one person. I'm gonna see right now. You know, I like testing out stuff. But what I found in doing just a bit of research is that the children younger and younger
Mm.
have no accountability, are actually reveling in certain things that shows how far society has degenerated. You know,
And
like
one of the
children in high school walking around asking each other, what's your body count? And actually saying 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's going to be 5 because she told me. I'm like, what in the world? And then a young guy, a young boy, he couldn't be more than 10th grade. He says 1, and his classmate looks at him and says, oh, man, come on, you need to get that up.
on somebody else's daughter.
On someone else's young little pitney where they send Ghana school. I'm sorry. Let me see if it.
That's why I'm glad that you brought it up, because that's what I was thinking of when I brought this about what the children are watching.
Yeah.
You have high schoolers, middle schoolers repeating and reproducing the
The
language that we're hearing.
language. Yep.
You have little girls saying, I have had 2 or 3, and boys saying things like, if she's a virgin, I'm going to defile her.
Yes.
Right? Boys thinking it is okay for them to have double-digit numbers, but then when the question is asked, what the girl has, then the same reaction that adult men are having, these
Yes.
boys are having, and saying that's not acceptable. I am not going to marry any girl that has. And mind you, these girls are already 14 with 2. By the time they become what we consider marriageable age, that number will increase. It has to
Yes.
increase, especially if certain ideologies are allowed to prevail. Like,
Yeah.
well, if you gave it up once when you were 14, when you knew better, you don't have the right
The choice
say,
to make a better.
the
Yeah.
mistakes that I made as a child, I'm not gonna make those mistakes anymore. No. You gave it up when you were 14. You must continue to give it up to any and everybody that asks, and that makes sense. And it's
These
making
are
sense to adults. Like adults, I'm listening to adults say, "Yeah, that's right. You did it once. You can't
adults,
make the next move."
full-grown adults saying
Yeah,
facts.
men and women who are saying that makes perfect sense. The mistakes I make as a child when I don't, it makes perfect sense not to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
That's what genius is.
That's crazy.
And
Let's
it's
see.
here more so. These are Hebrews. Hebrews are saying you don't turn away, you don't repent, you don't get better behavior, you continue to wallow in sin, and
Wow.
that is what you do.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not even gonna front. Some of the stuff I'm hearing, I'm like, yo, this is like the it's like the Twilight Zone. Some of the stuff is so unreal. I just look and just like, are we? But let's see if we BA. I don't know if you camera ready, but I saw you said you wanted to come on. Let's see if it adds another person while Sister Maya is still on. I don't think it does. I wanted to try.
I'll pop off. I'll continue to watch. Like, you want to give him?
No, yeah, I want to see what it is that he had to say before we wrap up. But definitely thanks, Sister Mike, for coming through. Y'all show her some love. Let the people know where they can hit you up at, sis.
You know where it goes. Yo, click on my name. You're on my side.
You know what it is.
You know what? Most of the time you can catch me at work.
Yeah, man. She be working now. She did her time in the trenches, man. She got to do her thing. Sending her love. All right then, sis. Let's see what the brother's saying.
The floor is yours, BA. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. All right. We here. BA, let's see what you're saying, brother. What's that sound? Go back inside. That's the young one. For those who just joined us, thank you for joining us. This has been a very interesting conversation. I kind of miss community conversations in this way and hosting and doing all that lovely stuff. You know, because it's good to have discussions and see people's perspectives and what they've seen and what they've heard and try to get to an understanding. I'm trying to add you, brother. I don't see it adding. Yeah, it's a lot. And it is a lot. So my phone is a little bit in the sun. So I don't, if I'm on it too long and it's in the car, then let me try to shield the thing. Oh my goodness. I tried to add you again, brother. Do. All right, we trying to add brother BA. If you have something to say, he goes. Hey, shalom, brother. How you doing?
All right, what's going on with you, sis?
I'm here. Long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. Now, I was just listening to you, sisters, and I think that's the one thing overall as a community we do miss. We don't have these kind of conversations,
right?
Because what we're starting to realize, we're starting to see more of a worldly, secular type of behavior come into the so-called religious set apart group.
It's true.
Expected about you, Mayana, you know what I'm saying, that you guys bring some of these topics that are not commonly spoken about, especially when it comes to the gender, so-called gender war,
right,
that we currently have to always tap into every so often as human beings. And you know what I'm saying, I most definitely can relate to some of the points you guys are making from the male perspective. Understand what you, at times we have all, it's just based on experience. So I can most definitely relate and understand the points you guys are bringing out. But I didn't think they was going around talking about body counts or how many women they had. I didn't think that was going around. I must be way out the loop.
You and me both. I was like, is this a thing? It's a thing.
See, I'm nearly 40, so I'm sitting up here like, wow. And I got one in high school getting ready to graduate. So I'm sitting up here like, I mean, I'm hearing what you say. I'm like, whoa, they talking like that?
Oh, it's a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. Okay, I was like, oh, it's a thing. It's a real and what's most concerning for me is the youngness of the children, the college students, and the amount of people. And I'm like, is this normal? You know what I mean? Is this where we are now? And like I said, we have to talk about it. You know what I mean? And shed light on it.
I agree.
So anything else you want to share?
No, I just wanted to just say that much, and hopefully, most high willing, we can. When you guys have another discussion like this, I would love to sit back and listen, and then if it's open for questions or comments.
Oh yeah, it's always open.
Yeah, I would love to participate.
It's always open. We definitely gonna come back.
Yeah, most definitely. But look, it's good to see you, sis. You're looking good. You look well kept. Hope all is well for you and your family.
Thank you.
Praise the Most High for that. Much love to you, Mayana. Good to see you as well, and hope we can all connect soon. Shalom.
All right, shalom.
All right, shalom.
All right, that was Brother BA. Anybody have anything else to say? Feel free to do so. I'm gonna go ahead and boogie now. I gotta run to the post office. But yeah, this every so often we need to stick our head out and see what's going on, because there's many things that are seeping in. And then when it seeps into certain communities, all it does is get cloaked and you know, it's still in the mind, but it gets cloaked in head wraps and hats and skirts and whatever it gets cloaked in, and then you're like, whoa, where is this coming from? And it's really coming from the perimeter. It's really coming from outside, and it's seeping in, and you know, you just put someone's name on it, and then all of a sudden now it becomes a thing. It becomes it becomes something that people feel that they have to ascribe to. So with that said, continue to be vigilant. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It has been a beautiful discussion, and prayerfully we'll be back to talk more. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube, a lot of the noteworthy information and all of the other segments are over there on YouTube. All right, so blessings.